go, and now that I'll probably convince you we need a database, so you have to have certain software to be able to create a database, right? So the software that allows you to create databases, to store data, to retrieve data, to manipulate data is called database management system. All right? A few years ago, one of my students told me, look, why you just say all this definition? Just read this backwards and you got the definition. So DBMS, read it backwards. System for Management of the Database. So that was one of my students hints to me. But a database is not just for a system for managing your databases. It does much more, and we'll go through details of that. So for time being, a database management system is a software that allows you to define what a database, what you want to store, create it, insert data into it, retrieve data out of the database, update data, delete data, or perform other functionalities, do mathematical calculations on the data, etc. Simple mathematical calculations. And to do it very fast, very quick. And share between lots of people, and you say who is allowed to access which data item. Okay, so the database management system has got two languages that allows you to do this task of defining, creating, maintaining, and manipulating and controlling access to the database. So you basically have got the data definition language for defining the database and data manipulation language for manipulating the database. We'll get to that. So here is, if you want to look at the diagram and see the difference now between file-based systems and the database approaches like this. So what we have here is the database that has got all the data. It's not stored in different files. Then you have got the database management system, DBMS, that allows you in the sales or contract department to create databases, insert data, retrieve data from the database, manipulate data. So you have got this software that's the interface for you for doing all the tasks. Right? And this database, a database management system comes with two languages, one for defining the database, one for manipulating the database. And that's what's called data definition language and data manipulation language. So the data definition language allows you to create a database. Data manipulation language allows you to insert data, retrieve data, update data, delete data. Right? So if you move on from here, there are lots of other things that the database management systems provide that you didn't have it in your file-based system, or you had to build into the file-based system. That's a very costly exercise. One of them is the security system, security control, so the login name, password, to be able to get into the database. The next thing is the encryption of the data, basically scrambling the data and storing it. So even if you can find a login name and password and break into the system and you retrieve the data, it's not in the readable format. Right? Another thing is also with the security is that you can group your users, the students, staff, academic staff, admin staff. So for example, in a student, in the university environment, as a student, you access your own data. As academic staff, I see the details of my students enrolled in my subject. Right? The admin people are allowed to manipulate this data. I can just see your data. I cannot change your data, but admin can change your address, can change your telephone number. At the end of the semester, I submit your grade to student admin, and certain people with certain access rights, security rights, can enter your grade. I can't do it. You see that? So the people here are grouped together, the users, based on their needs. So I don't need to know the details of every student in this university. I just need to know who's enrolled in my subject, for example. Although, to tell you the truth, we can access everybody's the information, because it could be a student coming to see me and wants to enroll in this subject, say, can I enroll? And I have to check the prerequisites, so I just get his or her student number and just check that this person is eligible or not. But in reality, everybody is allocated to access rights for their role in this university. So you as a student have got different access rights, I have different access rights, admin person has got different access rights. Another thing with this database management system is the integrity control. So basically, because we said with each data item we store metadata, we store information about the data. What type of data can we enter in here? For example, one data item about you or about me in this university database could be date of birth. And we define it as a day, month, year. And we can set constraint on that. Say, you're not going to accept any staff that's more than 70 years old, let's say. I don't know what's the limit on the university academic that can be here. Or you can say you're not going to get a student that has got was born half an hour ago. You can set a constraint on the data that's entered. So if somebody enters the data, so what's your date of birth as a student, or the admin person enters it wants to enter it incorrectly, it says 1st of January 1900 or 1800, the system will question that, because we can set constraints for the values that can be accepted. Let's say we were storing age. I don't know for what reason you would store age, because age keeps on changing. If you sit here, you're about an hour 45 minutes older. So I hope you gain enough knowledge for 45 minutes of your life that you lost being here. Yeah? I think I did, you did. But that's my own opinion. But let's say we store age of the person. So you can say, for example, we don't hire certain things to the people that are below the age of 15. So we can check the age of the person, let's say. And then we can say only we will hire or sell our products to the people between the age of 15 and 35. So if you have got your age in this database, so and you come and purchase something, we can check on that. If a new person comes in and we want to enter their age, and it is below the age of 15 or over 35, I said, so the system will not accept it. So the integrity controls can check the data that you enter is of the correct type of the data in the acceptable range. The next thing is concurrency control. So multiple, now we have got this database that can be shared among our supermarkets all around Australia or Canberra, and everybody can access the database, write the sales information in there, the staff information in there concurrently, simultaneously at the same time. What happens with the file-based systems is the system crashes, your files get corrupted, you get viruses on your computer, etc. You may have problems. With the database management system, it has got built-in the recovery backup facilities, so that you can set it to back up the data every 12 hours, every 6 hours, every 10 hours, depending on when is the time that you use the least amount, or you've got least amount of access to the database. So you could say we close the supermarket at 12 o'clock till 4 o'clock in the morning. Within, after 12 o'clock we do a backup. So every day you do a backup of your data. So if you want to do it with a file-based system, you have to build it into this program. So you have to add this functionality to your program. With the recovery services or recovery control system, it's something that's built in your database management system. So every time you log in, log out, every time you enter data, update data, delete data, all this information are stored in a file, which is called a journal of everything you do. So your case, as a student, every time you log in on online, OSIS, online student information system, the details are there. What you did, which item you browsed, which item you requested. All this information is there. If you change your address, I don't know if you're allowed to change your address online. If you change your address, your old address is in the journal. So, if by some reason the system crashes, it's got virus, etc. It's not stored in one place, it's stored in multiple places. We'll talk about it later on. You can go back to the journal and bring the system up to the point where the system crashed. You know what I mean? When the system crashed, after that you cannot access the data, you cannot retrieve. Till that point, you can. And everything you've done is there. With a file-based system, unless you write in your program to store everything you do, there's no such thing. So you've got this recovery services that allows you to recover from crashes. Sometimes during the semester, I'll ask a guest lecturer to come in, and Tom is the data center manager for us. Hopefully he will come. He has promised me to show up, and he'll tell you where the data is stored in some information. I think he won't tell you everything about the university, but where the data centers are, what's the data center, how do we keep track of the data, how do we back up, a few bits and pieces that will be useful for you for large organizations. Where the data is it stored in building 10, or is it in other side of Canberra, or is it stored in New York? So he'll tell you where we store the data and how we back them up and where the backups are stored. So of course the backup is not stored at the same place where the databases are running. And talk about how important is that you get your databases now that you've got all this information running 24 hours, 7 days a week. So in reality, this morning I was looking at some reports that the downtime our data center, I think last year was 6 hours, or 5 or 6 hours in the whole year. It was 6 hours that the data was not available. And that was actually done purposely because they were doing maintenance work. With the database management system, we talked about data definition language, data manipulation language for defining the database, and then data manipulation language for entering the data in, accessing it, deleting, updating. We talked about security control. We talked about concurrency briefly. We talked about recovery briefly. These are actually the topics of our advanced database subjects that I teach every 2 years. So if you're interested, next year I think it's offered, you can take it. And we go through the details and how it happens, etc. Here we just talked about it. The next thing about database management systems, don't forget, you want to have an interface to the database. So for example, with the Environment Student Information Systems, there's a user interface that's always constant. You see it, always is the same. Provides the same data for you. For me as a staff, it's a different user interface. For admin staff, different user interface because they have to do different functionality. So views are part of the database management system, and views are the interface for users of your database that's provided by your database management system. So you can create user interface for people behind the cash register differently, different user interfaces for your manager, different user interfaces for your staff. So now that all the data is stored in one place, you're not limited to certain functionality only. You can create a user interface and put as much functionality as you want into this. So view is the user interface to the data for different users. So what's the whole idea of the view? The first thing is you don't want to give access to the people to the database, to click on the database. And people, your users, are also not interested in that. As a student in this university, you just want to log in, get your data, see the data is up to date, your enrollment is up to date. You don't care where the data is stored, how the data is stored, right? You just want to have a nice interface to it. Imagine you have to go through the database, click on different parts to get your data. So as soon as you log in, the data comes in, because that's how it is designed. So, okay, that's this user, the students need this kind of information. So the decision is made. So it reduces complexities. You don't need to learn database management system facilities and functionalities. The database is available to you, and the database designers design the user interface, and it's created, and that's it. So the data comes in. If the data changes, you still have the same user interface, different data comes in. If you change, for example, your student number, when we enter your grade, next time you log in, your grades also shows up. Provide a level of security because you just block people to certain parts. You don't open the whole the database to the people. You can customize the appearance of your views, the same as user interfaces, colors, and all different kind of things. And it's always, when you log in, you see that. And this is happening with any device that you have. With your iPhone, different phones, you've got the same interface all the time. You see that? Unless you change the buttons here and there. You can do the same thing with the database. So let's go back. This is actually very abstract what I'm saying here, but just get some feel of what we've done. The database management system environment consists of few parts. One is the hardware, where you store your database management system software. So basically, on a server, on a computer, you have got the database management system software. So you've got hardware related to this database management system. Then you've got the people that are accessing the database. And what bridges between human and machine is the data communications that's happening. And these are done through certain procedures that you define. Okay, the data, who sees what, etc. So the hardware is the hardware that you use to store the database management system software. The software is the database management system software that allows you to manage, create, manage, and access databases. So what you store in the databases are the data that you need for your organization, and the procedures are the instructions and the rules that should be applied when we access the data, and the people that users of the system. So